who would like, I want someone to pick up on this, well, what Cuttlefield has been saying. Can I return to our panel here?
You've hit the nail on the head. Market forces will serve consumers. They will not serve citizens. The world's poor require these technologies because they are citizens. The market failures that you are speaking about are precisely why the villages that the Secretary General of the ITU will remain unconnected. And they will remain unconnected as long as we consider ICT as a sector in and of itself. The Human Development Report for 2005 speaks about the need for trade reform. It speaks about the need for increasing aid. It speaks about the need for improving governance. Unless we are looking at ICTs in a holistic way, where we're actually looking not at whether or not sector reform is a panacea, we will not solve the problem. It's the wrong solution.
We really need to know how poverty can be overcome. And it will not be overcome by connectivity. That's a necessary condition to enrich the context in which the poor operate. But poverty has to do with capacity building. Having connectivity is necessary, but it is not enough. And I think it is very dangerous if we put all the effort in just the infrastructure or the content and do not concentrate on capacity building per se. That is really what brings about change.
I think we are missing, once again, the key issues. 2 years ago in Johannesburg, what was said? The most powerful leaders of the most powerful countries said and agreed about the fact that 10 years after Rio, the poor countries are poorer and poorer, and the rich ones are richer and richer.
And is communications part of the problem? Is that driving the gap even further?
It is not a question of communication. It is not a question of digital divide. It is a question of knowledge divide.
Can I bring Tom Kessinger in here, for whom we have not heard? Your view on where the money is best spent.
One of the things you can do with poor people in rural areas is improve the quality of the social services that they receive by communicating with the social service deliverers. So that means reaching out to your teachers, your midwives, and your nurses through a variety of things, and maybe the internet, but there's many other possibilities, and keeping them plugged in.
We're going to have to wind this debate up now.
Let me say a word of optimism here, right? Because it's been a little bit gloomy, like this is sort of, these problems are so large and it's almost...
But they are large.
They are large, but let's not forget at the same time the enormous progress that is taking place and that we know will happen in the next 10 years. Now, it took 100 years for the telephone to reach the first billion users from the day Graham Bell showed it. In 10 years, in the past 10 years, we've added another 1 billion people. We've doubled the number of users who can communicate in 10 years, and we will again double the existing number in the next 10 years to 4 billion people. Now, that's tremendous progress, so we shouldn't forget that that is being made all of the time here. That doesn't take away from the big problems left, but we are making good progress at the same time.
Renalia.
Thank you. The challenges are great. The gentleman from Nokia says, yes, there has been progress, and we can be optimistic about that, but the challenges are still great. Yeah. And in order to move forward, we need partnerships among the government, business, civil society, and the community themselves.
The gap is wider and wider.
The gap is widening, actually, and that is the problem. I mean, the gap between haves and have-nots, which also is actually widening, and that's a major concern. And that's why one has to work on all levels. I mean, you can't say government or market. You have to say both.
Can I ask you something? And this is something I wanted. It's relevant to the point at which we are now with the WSIS. There is a row, as you all know, going on about who should actually control the internet. Does it matter to the world's poor who controls the internet, the United Nations, the United States? Does it actually day-to-day make any difference? Is it likely to make a difference?
No, this is a power play, and this is a political issue. I think the world needs an internet which functions.
Right. Bye.
Let us not create new myths. Let us not think that information is knowledge. For information to become knowledge and meaningful for people, especially for the poor, you need understanding, you need cognitive skills.
After what you've heard, have you been persuaded by some of the arguments that you've heard today?
Technology is clearly going to help alleviate many of the divides that we have, the divides of governance, the divides of healthcare, the divides of literacy, of clean water, of economic progress. But I don't think we're going to actually see much benefit coming out of WSIS to do that. WSIS is interesting for politicians.
The World Summit.
Exactly, for
in Tunisia.
the World Summit in Tunisia. It's a useful way for some governments to talk about these issues, but the real action is going to happen on the ground by others.